Welcome back, everyone, to Dare to Overshare, where oversharing is a love language. I'm Jackie Hollywood, and I have Margarita Monet here with me. She is the singer of Edge of Paradise. If you haven't checked out that band, you have to do it. And I'm super excited for some overshares and some hot takes. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So first things first, like I always do, we're going to start with a vibe check. So I want to know, how are you really feeling today? How are you physically feeling, mentally feeling, emotionally feeling? Like, tell me all of it.
I'm feeling very good. When I was driving to this area, I'm like, wow, I'm really excited to just kind of be in the moment. And that's been my vibe lately is I think the older I get, the more I realize how important it is to really enjoy everything you do because things just go by so fast. And I used to just always look forward, like, what's the next thing I'm doing, and I've lately realized that it's very important to just really enjoy each moment and just realize that, being grateful makes you feel very good.
That's so true. What you said, a lot of the times we're always thinking about the next things that are coming up, which is also fun because it's like getting excited about something. But I also realize that if you're always thinking about the next thing, you're not actually enjoying any of it because you're always thinking about the next thing. So that's a really good point. And I love starting with that. So we're going to be super present during the show and we're going to soak it all in, right?
Exactly.
Okay, amazing. Also, before we get into it, I just wanted to note that we just both found out right when Margarita got here, because this is my first time meeting you, that we're both of like the same origin, basically, almost. So my mom is from Russia, my dad's from Georgia, the country, not the state. And you said your mom is from Georgia.
Yeah, so my mom's, yes, she is Georgian and a little bit of Russian, and my dad is Armenian.
Yeah, insane. So we're like almost very, very similar. So it's going to be a good vibe. All right. So we're going to start with some overshares. So I'm doing things a little bit differently this season. So season 1, if you guys have listened to season 1, I made sure that whenever my guests would come, I didn't know what they were going to overshare about. I wanted it to be a surprise. So I let them surprise me. This time I was like, let me try something different. Let me get the overshares in advance so that I know what we're talking about. So I'm trying this out. So we're going to see how it goes. So the first thing we're going to overshare about is you said that you have high anxiety when it comes to decisions and confrontations. Okay, so walk me through that. Tell me how this all started and how it feels when this happens, or like any examples that you may have.
Yeah, well, so I started the band about 10 years ago and, noted that I was always growing up, I was very fearless. Like, I just wanted to do things. I just always went for it. Never thought about, anything bad happening or it was just kind of a different state of mind. And then, as you get older and then things that challenges arise and you start have to deal with them, I just start thinking about more. I start getting more in my head. And having the band, there's so many people involved, and especially as it grows, there's more and more people. So having to make difficult decisions or having to tell someone that, you don't want to work with them anymore, or also, in personal relationships, I just have had so much anxiety to tell the truth, how the situation makes me feel and how I need to move forward to, be better for me and not feel selfish about it. Because I've always been the one to think about how I make others feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I've realized that that's a very good trait to have because, you do have to care about others, obviously. And I am a very empathetic person in nature, but I've had to realize that it's important to realize how it makes me feel and what I need to do for myself, and that telling the truth is actually not gonna, in the long run, maybe it will hurt at first, but it kind of sets someone free in a way.
Yeah. It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're not taking care of yourself, then how can you take care of everyone else? And I personally am a retired people pleaser. I still probably have, 5% of that energy left in me, and I catch it sometimes.
Yeah.
But I used to be very much in that people pleaser energy. What do you need? What do you want? Are you okay? Are you happy? And it's like, then you kind of look back and you're like, this whole time, have I even asked myself if I'm good, if I'm happy? So I'm happy to hear that that's something that you're overcoming. I want to go back to what you said in the beginning. You said that when you're in a band, it's sometimes hard to maybe tell someone you don't want to work with them anymore. Can you elaborate on this? Because I feel like this is a good overshare, because that's never an easy thing in any situation to tell somebody. It's kind of like you're breaking up with them, you know, even though it's not a romantic relationship. So tell me about that.
It's very much like you're breaking up with them, especially when you've toured, like you live in the same place with someone and, you know, you share all of these experiences. You know, sometimes it happens naturally because you sort of, it's like a relationship. If you kind of start going your separate ways or going into different directions, you just start focusing on different things. But sometimes, like for example, when Dave and I started the band, like we just went all in, and I've invested a lot of basically I invested everything into it myself, and you know, Dave as well. But you know, sometimes when you know you work with someone, they don't really realize how much of you, and it's your baby, like you feed it, you really give your all. And then if they're kind of not, if it just grows, like sometimes, you know, you go on tour and then people kind of act, I don't want to say unprofessional, but like their focus is not the same as yours. And then there comes a point where you have to think about the big picture, what you're doing. And then you have to think about, well, you know, I've sacrificed so much for this thing. I really need people that will help me propel it more, that will not kind of pull me back. And I don't want to say that I've worked with anyone that really pulled me back. It was just kind of differences, you know? So, but having to say that to someone, or having to be like, hey, I want to go into a different direction, people just take it so personally, kind of like they take it as though, you know, you're saying, oh, you're a terrible person. But it's not really about that. It's just about, you know, something that you're creating, and it's just going into a different direction. And then of course there's like egos involved and all of that, so it's never easy.
It's hard not to take it personally, right?
Yeah.
Because you associate yourself with this thing, and when someone tells you they don't want you to do it anymore, it's not personal, but it feels like it, right? It can feel so devastating, just like a breakup.
Yeah.
So so that's something that, so I, you know, I don't know you and your background very well yet. I'm getting to know you now. So is that something that you had to do, you're saying, with the person that was in your band recently?
Yeah, well, no, not recently. We've had a very good lineup recently. I mean, actually, maybe like a year or two, so kind of recent. But we've gone through quite a few band members, just because, you know, when you start touring and doing more, like sometimes it's just natural that maybe it doesn't fall under people, with people's lifestyle or with their goals in life, and the time commitment isn't there. But if it's there and then something is not fitting right, or something is going into a different direction, that's when things get very hard. And then the heartbreaking thing is you want to be friends with that person because it's not about the person. But it's just, it becomes a little bit difficult.
There's like this tension now, right? Because there's just this struggle there. So I can understand that. So when you decided that you needed to have this conversation and say, I don't want you to be a part of this anymore, walk me through the feelings that were in your body, you know, because you said you have anxiety when you have to do something like this. So tell me how it feels, walk me through it, and then how did you actually push yourself to have that conversation?
Well, anxiety is like, I always think about it and I maybe overthink, and maybe in my head it's even worse than it is, because I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up, oh, I don't want to make this person feel bad, I don't want to, you know, and it just nags on you all day long. So it kind of just makes you feel heavy just to get through the day, slow you down a little bit. Well, at least for me, anytime I have things on my mind or I overthink about something, it just keeps slowing me down, because can't shift my focus. And because maybe it's part of that people pleaser thing, because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But the conversation, and this was not really specific to, like I said, someone recently, but maybe before. And Dave was also on the conversation because, he's kind of my partner in this band. And, we just say, we're going into a different direction. And then there is always like, well, from the other side is like, well, what did I do wrong? And that's kind of like the hardest question, because nobody did anything wrong. It's just something that maybe we want something else, or we want, or things are getting a little bit more busy in a way that it's just morphing into something different. So I don't know. It's just always very hard to find the words. Just the vibe is it's not clicking anymore. But the conversation just was like that. And then from the other side is like, well, what did I do wrong? And then starts the blame shifting. Well, you guys maybe don't communicate. And then, maybe we didn't do something wrong. Maybe it's true. Maybe we didn't do something. But in that context, there's so much we always have to handle. And there's so much I have to handle. And keep pushing things forward, that I'm not perfect, so maybe there's things that I did wrong that kind of propelled this relationship into a different direction.
But then once you finally speak up, like, how does that feel when you finally are able to say it? What were you feeling inside? Like, how much relief?
It is relief. And this is what I learned, is that there is relief no matter the outcome. And that's why I think it's so important that truth kind of sets you free, because no matter how much it is uncomfortable in the moment, that relief will grow into something positive, and actually for both parties. Mm-hmm. Because when you have that thing where things are going into the separate ways, I believe it's kind of better for both parties, because maybe they're unhappy or they want to go into their own path that maybe I wasn't, pulling them into the right one. So I think it's good for both parties.
That's so true. The truth will set you free is such a great quote, because there's so many quotes out there that seem very cliche, that are overused, but they're overused for a reason, because they're so true. And I think that is also true in relationships, right? Whenever you have to break up with somebody, maybe nobody did anything wrong.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, it's not working anymore. You're setting that person free to go find the person that will appreciate them too. So I think that's such a good point. In general, is your truth is always super important. And I'm so glad that you were able to speak up, because imagine if you never said anything, what would you be like today in your band and everything? Yeah. So I want to move on to your other overshare, which is that you think no one will want you when you're older. It's a fear that you have, okay? Or that you had. I don't know how you feel now. But I do want to talk about that, because I think you're not the only one that has that fear, right? That if we're single and we're getting older and we're getting wrinklier and we're getting this and we're getting that, oh, no one's going to want me anymore. So walk me through what that fear is like for you.
I think it's a bit of a cultural thing too, because in that part of the world, and maybe a few decades back, if you're over 25, it's like
you're dead.
You're dead. You're done.
No one's gonna want you. You can't have kids anymore. Yeah.
So maybe I heard something like that when I was growing up, and it just kind of stuck with me. And then also, like recently, I don't know if you know that guy. That other podcast where they have like women and then men, and everybody has such a different opinion about it. And, men are like, women are bad now, and women, the whatever podcast. I don't know if we can mention.
Is it? Oh, you can mention whoever. Yeah. What is it called?
The whatever podcast.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Shout out. No, I don't think I know.
But, yeah, it's crazy. They're just like, always attacking each other. But on that podcast, like guys are always like, yeah, no man will want you if you're over 35, or if you haven't set up your life, then you're pretty much all done. And I just think that's a very toxic mentality to have in a society, because, like, for example, when I came here when I was 11, I was brought up in a way where you really kind of respect your elders, and you look up to people that are older. And sometimes here, like, for example, when at the schools we had older teachers, like, kids, they really have no respect sometimes. And I think it's um part of the society, part of maybe how they're brought up at home. But I just really value people that are older, have more wisdom, have more experience. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think it should be respected. But going back to me, having that fear is kind of fueled my anxiety of always like chasing whatever the goal or the success or the relationship, or trying to start a family or whatever else. And I feel like that anxiety kind of sets you back. I think it's important to know what is important for you in the moment and what makes you happy, and really build your future you want for yourself, and then things kind of fall into place. And I'm not saying just kind of live blindly, but I really want to not have that fear, because I think it's limiting. Any fear you have, I think it kind of limits you in a way.
Yeah, that's such a good point, though, with the whole, if you're a woman and you're, excuse me, and you're over 25 or maybe over 30, no one's going to want you. And if you flip it and you think of a man, so many men are older, and people don't really say that about men.
Yeah,
if anything, the older men are always looking for the younger women. So there is that toxic mentality in that culture. So it is definitely something that I think a lot of women have a fear around. And we're here. I don't know how old you are, actually.
I'm 35.
Oh, 35. Okay. I'm 36.
Okay.
And are you single, in a relationship?
I'm in a relationship.
Okay. Or it's complicated.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is we're in our 30s,
Yeah.
right? And I feel personally, I don't know about you, I feel younger and more alive and wiser and happier and healthier now than I did in my 20s. And so now that I'm actually here, I'm like, none of that's true.
Yeah.
None of that stuff that we heard growing up was true. Somebody does want me at this age, you know what I mean? And you, clearly, I'm sure multiple people want you. So we're here to tell you that if you are getting to that age and you're worrying about it, there's nothing to worry about. Actually, the older you get, it's like fine wine.
It's very true. I'm much more confident in myself. I am healthier. I feel great. I feel like I always think I'm like 16. Like, I don't.
Me too.
Yeah, and I think you get in a different state of mind, and you're just more fulfilled. You're happier, enjoying each moment, whatever you're doing in life. So yeah, don't be afraid.
Yeah, and it is funny what you said about the mentality, or maybe a cultural thing, because I also grew up in basically the same type of culture as you. And I'm sure this is not just an Eastern European thing. I'm sure other cultures experience this. But I was very much told, like, hurry up and find somebody. Just hurry up and get married. Hurry up and settle down. I'm like, what's the rush? What's the hurry? Like, if I'm meant to find somebody, I will. If I'm meant to be alone, I will. But I never understood what the rush was to find somebody and have kids and have a family. And I'm like, is that really the only thing that life is about? Or could we enjoy other things as well? So how is your mentality about that? Like, were you growing up, were you always sort of more so chasing a career, or were you in the mentality of, I want to settle down and find a person and start a family? Like, what was your mentality on that?
My mentality was, I want to escape reality and build my own world. I swear to God.
You want to get out of the matrix?
Yes. Since I was very young, I always craved science fiction movies and the stories that are larger than life. But never once I was fantasizing about, getting married, or and for some reason I never was in that direction. So for me, it was just so natural to kind of, start building something of my own. And like I said, of course, I'm not opposed, and I want to have a family, and I believe in the family unit, and I believe in all those things. But I don't like to feel the pressure. I don't like to feel like, no one's going to bring you water when you're old.
That's also the same about kids. And, I, to this day, my overshare, I think a lot of people know this who follow me, is I've never had the desire to have kids. I mean, I'm not a hard no, never. I'm just more like, I don't know, not for me, maybe. Watch, I run this back 5 years from now and I have a kid. But I'm just saying, there's always that pressure around when you're older, like you said, no one's going to be around to take care of you. And, it's almost like have kids so that when you're old, they can do things for you. And I'm like, that shouldn't be the main reason that you have kids. You should have kids because you want to have kids. Like you want to bring kids into this world. You want to take care of them. But the mentality of, oh, when you're old, no one's going to look after you. That should never be the reason, right? Because then it's like almost this resentment of you have to do things for me because I'm doing this for you. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with you. And, I'm not saying that people that have kids have that mentality. Of course not. But like sometimes in certain cultures, like you do hear those things. And I don't even know if it's really how... I mean, there is that expectation. And of course, like I would always, take care of my parents. I love my parents. But I never want to have a kid just because I'm afraid of being old and alone. And to that point, I also think that, and, older people, it's not um, like I don't believe I'm going to be alone, Maybe before I had that fear, but there's so much to life. There's so many people that you can connect with, especially like in the arts and music, that really brings me fulfillment. And, I do want to have a kid one day, and I want to teach it stuff, and, I want to make it like maybe sell merch. No, I'm just be a roadie. No, of course
They're your assistant.
Yeah,
that's what you have the kid for. That's the thing. It's like if you're gonna have kids, or if you're gonna look for a partner or anything, you should never do it out of fear.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the main thing that a lot of maybe the older generation doesn't quite understand. If you're doing something out of fear, you're now bringing the energy of fear into what you're doing. But if you're doing things out of love because you want to, that's a whole different story. So I think we're in the same mindset of just do it because you want to, not because you're afraid that one day you'll regret it. Because then you're doing it out of fear, which is a whole different thing. So
yeah, I'm kind of on a mission to beat fear. I have a song, The Other Side of Fear. We have a music video coming out. And because I feel like in certain parts of that cultural, bringing up my background, there's been a lot of like, you have to do this, or something bad will happen, or you have to do this, or there's just a little more anxiety and fear about really structuring your life a certain way. Otherwise, things are going to end up badly for you.
Things will fall apart, come crashing down. I was raised the same way. I mean, of course, my parents, shout out, because I know they're watching this, shout out, because they really supported me through all of my dreams. And I'm able to be here and do this, and because we got the love and support. But there was always that underlying, well, if you go this way, you might not make enough money. And if you don't make enough money, you might do this. And then no one's going to love you. And then you're never going to, it's just always this underlying anxiety there. And I just chose to tune it out as much as I could, as respectfully and lovingly as I could, and just be like, I'm going to do what makes me happy. And I'm so proud of myself. And of course, I'm grateful for the help that I got getting here. And I'm sure you feel the same way. But I'm so happy that you're also in the same boat of not letting fear rule your life. So we're making a pact right now. Pinky promise. No fear ever.
Exactly.
Yes. And we're doing the same for you guys. Pinky promise. Okay. Before we move on, I wanted to give a little tiny plug to this amazing brand called Vibes. We're both drinking. If you're just listening to the audio, you're not going to see it, but here, I'll give you a little ASMR. Vibes is a mood drink that has magnesium in it. Magnesium is so good for just feeling super chill and relaxed. Really good for you. I have the blood orange lime and you have the strawberry lavender.
Very good.
They're delicious. So if you want 10% off on your order, you can head to idrinkvibes.com. By the way, that's vibes with VYBES, not with an I, with a Y. And you can put in Jackie Hollywood for 10% off of your total order. I'm going to take a sip because it's so yummy.
It's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really delicious. And yeah, thanks Vibes for hitting me with the vibes. Also, shout out to Seth Rogen because Seth Rogen loves Vibes and he is also a fan. And I'm a fan of Seth Rogen. All right, so I want to move on to hot takes because this is another part of my show that's my favorite because we're going to just talk about some things that you think strongly about that maybe other people will not agree with, which is the fun part. Okay, so the first one, I love this. You said you don't need trauma to be interesting. So expand on that. Tell me what you mean by that.
So I have a rock band and, of course, in a lot of this genre, there is a lot of, and I'm not saying that I'm not invalidating anyone's trauma or anything like that.
Disclaimer.
Yes, disclaimer. But, I'm very grateful that I had a very good childhood. I didn't experience, something that other people might have that's very traumatic for them and stuck with them. But I kind of felt this pressure, being in this and starting out in rock and to like, oh, you have to be depressed to make great music or, write something that's like, that you're so like gut-wrenching to you. And because I don't have that, but I have a mind that I think very deeply. I think about things that are maybe, larger than just our everyday reality. So I went into that direction with my band and I kind of started creating a concept that's more into maybe philosophical, more into what's happening in our society. But there is always that kind of, and sometimes like seeing online too, and then, some bands getting big and people are like, oh yeah, I just wanted to kill myself and now I write the song. And it's almost like overused. And I just had to kind of tell myself that, well, I don't really have to be that same way. It's almost like, today we're always trying to kind of chase that next trend or go viral or all of that thing. And I think when you chase trend or you're trying to go to that, chase the algorithm, you're going to eventually feel empty inside because it's not your truth. And it's going back to like, how important it is to know your truth because that's where authenticity comes from. That's how people are going to connect to your music because it's honest to you. So I just kind of had to let go of that and be okay that, well, for me, I don't have that trauma. I'm owning it, but I'm creating something different, something that, we can all escape this reality and, experience this other world that, the storytelling that I'm kind of lacing throughout our music. But, just to say it again, of course, I'm not saying trauma and, all those difficult experiences that someone lived through is not fuel for art because it is. But I guess my trauma is thinking too much about, what is our purpose in this world? And, I think about afterlife or if there's an afterlife or consciousness. I think about things like that. And my dad is a scientist. I really love science. So I think about, other things.
I love that. Yeah, I think that art can come in so many various forms. And you're right. I mean, not everybody has a terrible childhood or something horrible happening. And it's really sad when that is the truth and that is the case. And it's also beautiful when someone can transmute that sort of trauma into something.
Pain into something beautiful.
Right. It is great. It is beautiful. But that doesn't necessarily discredit you from being a rock artist because you didn't have those things.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite artists or even in the rock genre like don't have that trauma either. So I think it's completely fine to pull from anything, anywhere, Do you feel like people in society, whether fans or people in the music industry or anyone kind of pressured you to have that like depressive mood? Or where did this idea come from? Do you feel like people have said that to you before? Like, why aren't you singing about your traumas?
There has been some times where, yeah, like, why don't you sing about this, or why don't you sing that? Well, because that's not something that I'm passionate about, Or, when you watch online and, those shows like American Idol, there's always like the story of going through something horrible and coming on the other side of, dealing with something or whatever it may be. So I feel like it is kind of um, sensationalized in television or in the media, right? Um, but for me, like, um, I, f- I feel, I don't want to say the same kind of pain, but I feel like, I think deep down, and when people know me, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, you're always smiling. You're such a happy person. How can you be so happy all the time?" But I'm actually not. Like, I think too much, and it causes me a lot of um, pain in a different way, where like it's almost like pain for humanity,
Compassionate pain.
Compassion, because I feel like in this life, people suffer so much. Life can be so cruel. I think about those things and I fuel off of that and I write about that. And then I try to write something. I always have hope in the music. So there's always something positive that people can get out of from listening to the songs. So for me, that's kind of like how I turn my pain into hope and fear. And it's almost for me as well, because I do, you know, I do have those thoughts that bring you down a lot.
I can relate, interestingly enough, to where whenever I feel a heaviness, a lot of the times I have to check in and be like, why am I feeling this way? What is it? And a lot of the times it has nothing to do with anything going on with me. I'm feeling an energy, a collective energy. And for example, this is something recent that I can relate to, which is the Palisades fires. I live just a few miles away from all of that. And not only was it scary to, do I have to evacuate or anything like that, but I was so saddened by everybody around me who was losing their homes and all of this. And then I felt this crazy amount of guilt that I had this place to live in and that I was safe and that I have this beautiful home and that, why is everyone else suffering but I'm okay? Like I'm so lucky, but the luckiness turned into a guilt. And I remember I was so emotional. I was just crying in here because I felt so bad for everybody else. Yeah. And I had to remember I can still hold that compassion. If I can help, I can help. I did house a few friends that had to get evacuated. So I felt grateful that I was able to have a space for them. I had to turn that guilt around because I realized me feeling guilty for having things when someone else is losing things isn't going to help anybody. That guilt isn't going to help me. It's not going to help anybody else. So I do get those overwhelming feelings too. And then for me, it's like I'll meditate or I'll journal. For you, you're putting it into your music. So I think it's beautiful that we're so compassionate, but it also can be a little bit of a downfall because it's like weighing a lot. It's weighing very heavily. It can cause anxiety, right?
Yeah.
So it's true. It's you can transmute all of that energy into something beautiful like your art. So yeah. All right, let's move on to the next hot take, which I also thought was super interesting. You said the self-love movement is breeding narcissism. So talk to me about that.
Okay, well, I don't want to come off too like, everybody's going to be a narcissist, but it's just everything is so, I think part of it is the social media because, we go online and it's always like, oh, me, me, me. And then it's just everything is so perfect. And there's like this facade of all the perfect things and all the great things that are happening every day. And I don't know, it's just, see, like, I don't want to say too much because I also post things. I try to post things that are related to the band. I've never felt like comfortable enough to share my personal life all the time. Like I always, it's just I'm not that kind of person.
You are today.
Today,
You are now.
but whatever is online, it's almost like I'm a character, and other creators are also characters. I can't fault them for that. But it creates that illusion that we have to have this perfection. We have to strive to have this certain life that we see on social media. And then I feel like everybody tries to chase that perfection, and then it puts people and I'm kind of victim of that myself. I start thinking about, too much that makes me forget that there's other things that are going on that are more important with other people and on the inside, rather than, it's just, and then always like, how does that make you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? I feel like now it makes us just focus on how I want to feel in that moment instead of like how we can all feel in that moment. It's so hard to put into words. But I just think that, if we kind of shift our focus from trying to chase that perfect lifestyle we see, maybe there's other things that will fulfill us more at the end.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a fine line between being a people pleaser and caring too much about how everyone else feels versus taking care of yourself and making sure you're good, but not to the point of narcissism where all you care about is how you feel and you don't care about anyone else. And there's this middle ground between the two. It's called balance. So it's like, how do we get there?
Balance. And it's very hard to describe. Like, okay, everybody, some people love her, some people hate her. Meghan Markle, right? I feel like, I don't know what your opinion is, but just the way she talks, there is that bit of that narcissism that nothing she does can be wrong, right? And it's like it's interesting because I never really talked about it. It's very hard to discuss because you don't want to say too much and you kind of sound like, you have like this opinion. Because
we're here oversharing. So the disclaimer on the show is everything that is said is just the thoughts unfiltered through our mouth. We might change our minds later and that's fine,
I'm allowed to have an opinion. I'm not always right. And my opinion is just my opinion. But just having that like overthinking of, my life is so perfect and what I do makes people feel amazing and nothing I do. No, it's just too much.
It just feels a little fake.
A little fake. Yes.
Yeah. And to be fair, because you said you don't know how I feel about it. To be fair, I don't follow her enough to know. I've seen her, well, the most that I've seen her in is Suits. When she was an actress in Suits. So I watched her acting, which is completely different than who she is as a real person. Her as a real person, I haven't really watch too many things, so I don't actually have an opinion, but I know that people feel that way about her for sure, so I can understand that. Do you have that feeling about any other celebrities that people may know? Like, is there anyone else that you feel has that attitude of, I mean, I can think of one right now.
Yeah.
Good old Kanye.
Oh, well, yeah.
But he actually has issues, so I mean that's who comes to the top of my head.
I think sometimes celebrities, they're just so out of reality. Like I used to know Fabio. I don't know if you remember.
I do. And I'm not going to name her name, but I have a friend who might know him well. I'm like turning red because she knows who she is. But yeah, I do.
Yeah. So, and he's a very nice person, but it's just sometimes people are just so far removed from real life. Like they live in this, and he comes from a rich family, and he used to say like, oh, I came to LA with nothing and I just walked into a modeling agency and I got my contract that same day. And that's like his big struggle. Oh my God.
For reference, by the way, if you don't know Fabio, you're too young for me, bro and girls. But he did I Can't Believe It's Not Butter. We're talking about the same Fabio, right? Okay, I'm just making sure. We grew up, I guess I would say if you're about 30 and above, you probably know Fabio. But he used to go to my gym, so I used to see him all the time.
Okay, yes, West Hollywood.
Yeah. I used to see him all the time. What were you saying right before that?
Well, I think I didn't know him until I met him. But yeah, I think he's more bigger in the 80s, right?
Oh, for sure.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, but he was on the cover of the romances. And,
yeah.
But, he's a very nice person.
Fabio, if you're watching this and you want to come on the show, you are more than invited. Imagine. Oh, okay. All right. We have another one. And I think this one is also really good because this is like a 180 from any conversation we've been having so far. So I love this. You said, you're not scared of AI. You're scared of being outdone. So let's talk about AI because I love the topic of artificial intelligence. I use ChatGPT all the time. People have their opinions on it. Now, I'm going to ask you in a second, but I know people have strong opinions because one, ChatGPT, yes, it's not good for the environment. So if you use it all the time, you're contributing to the downfall of humanity and Earth. So I know some people are really have a strong opinion about that. And then also another strong opinion that people have is, well, if you keep using it and you're not really using your brain anymore, your brain's going to deteriorate, you're not being creative and all this stuff. Now, I think just like we drew a line between people pleasing and being a narcissist, there's that middle ground, there's a balance. How I feel is that there's a balance. There's always a balance. There's always in moderation of everything, right? So now I want to bring it to you. Tell me your thoughts on AI.
I started talking about AI in 2018 with our album Universe, and then we had the album The Unknown. During the pandemic, I had the song called Digital Paradise, where I kind of put into perspective that what if our existence is through like this digital cyber world. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because I would always ask people how they feel about it. And some people are so much like, I'm totally against anything to do with technology and artificial intelligence. You're never putting any chips in my brain. And then some people are like all for it. And then it's interesting how the world evolved because from 2018, nobody was really talking about it. Now it's so prevalent in everyday life. But yes, like in the music and the arts, a lot of people are super against it because it is kind of taking over. And my dad actually sent me, oh, look at this band. They said they're all AI and they have 1 million Spotify listeners. And here you are, sacrificing everybody. So it does kind of bring out certain emotions about it. But I think the biggest danger is having AI to discourage you from creating. And I think that's where the downfall of humanity, because it's evolving faster than we can catch up with emotionally, I feel like, and ethically in a way. But I am not against it because it's kind of like similar when Spotify came out. A lot of musicians were very against it, and part of it I was like, oh, I don't want Spotify, but it's not going to go anywhere. So you have to learn how to adapt and adapt in a smart way. And I feel like our generation is in kind of a perfect balance because we didn't grow up with it. So we were able to develop critical thinking on our own. We kind of developed that part, and we pushed ourselves to kind of, if you want to learn something, you have to go through that process of learning it, failing and then learning. And then now we have this technology, and it's easier to find that balance to use in your advantage. to maybe free up, like, for example, I use it where I want to do some quick research where it will free up time for me to do something I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I see benefit in that. But I'm kind of afraid for the generation that's growing up on it,
Mm-hmm.
because they have to, unless they teach themselves, which is kind of hard to do when you have so much readily available at your disposal. Like, everything is just so easy. And I used to teach music a lot a few years ago, and I noticed the trend of like, there is just no patience for anything. If something gets a little hard, you instantly give up, you know? So unless you have someone that really pushes you to go past that point, it's very hard to. So I'm kind of feeling for the younger generation that are growing up on TikTok and ChatGPT.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. So do you feel like the people that are very much against all AI, do you actually feel like the reason that they are scared is because they are worried that their intelligence isn't as good or as strong, and so like you said, they're going to be outdone, so it's more of like an ego thing for them?
I don't even think it's a really ego. I think it's just, I mean, because it's true, like with art, you know, you put a prompt and it spits out really beautiful stuff a lot of the time. So I think it is very threatening. And it's not even ego. It's also, a lot of people feel like it's going to take their jobs, and it is taking some people's jobs. So it is very valid. But I think if we just focus on that, it does kind of turn into ego. I think the focus has to be on how I can use that to create something, because it's important to remember that we still are human and we can create something out of nothing. AI only creates something out of what's already there. So it's important to realize that and kind of shift your focus to still keep that fire and inspiration coming, because if we are going to that negative vibe of like, you know, it does turn into ego and fear, and I think ego is the death of art.
Yeah, it is. And like we were talking about earlier, when you have a fearful mindset and you do things out of fear, or you don't do things out of fear, you're not only holding yourself back, you're holding back all the potential that there is. And with AI, I think what's beautiful, like you said, is we're still human. So we have to actually input something. You have to physically type something in and give it an input for it to create anything. And so you can still be very creative in what you're inputting, because I use ChatGPT for work a lot, and I have a coworker who uses it even more than I do. And he is so much more creative with his prompts to get results that I'm not getting those same results, because I'm not as creative, or as I haven't studied it enough to be able to input those same things. So whenever he gets, he puts in a prompt and he gets a result, and I put in a different prompt, I get a different result. It is very much like, oh, he used a different part of his brain to get that than I did. And so I have something to learn. So I think that it's important to keep up with AI, because if people are afraid of losing their jobs, if you keep up with AI, you're not going to, because you're going to be valuable in many industries, because many industries are using AI for so many different things, not just in creative and arts, but also in science, right? And technology, and so many different things. So I do think that keeping up with it instead of being afraid of it is actually the way to quote unquote battle it, because now you are kind of on that same level as AI.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would never like make it to, create a song for me, because I feel like
You can input some trauma. You can put some
right?
trauma in there and be like, tell me about death.
That it's not going to bring me fulfillment, because
Right.
I enjoy the process of making the song. So then it comes to what you really want for yourself. What do you want to get out of life?
That's the thing, is you are creating music because you enjoy the process. The result is just there because that is what's going to be the outcome, right? But the product, I mean, me sitting here with you right now, I'm enjoying this conversation so much. The end result, when this is edited and post it on social media and you're watching this right now, that's all great and that's all fun, but this is the actual fun part, right? The process.
Yes, exactly.
So, and we're being present and living in the moment. So I love that. So I want to ask you to give a note to your younger self. So when I ask you to picture your younger self, what's like the first age that you picture yourself as?
Maybe 15, 16 when I was trying to get out of Houston
Okay.
to New York. I remember I really wanted to go to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So pretend like your 15-year-old self is here, and I want you to give her just any kind of piece of advice or anything that you would want to say.
I would say don't rush into anything and really find what makes you happy and what fulfills you. Yeah.
That's sweet.
Simple, but very powerful.
Yeah, because, when we do these note to younger selves, it's like you're talking to yourself right now, too. Everyone can always use it. So I think that's beautiful. And what are you currently working on? I know you said you have something coming out. Now, this episode is going to come out a little while after we're recording it, but you can go ahead and promote anything that you have, and maybe it's already out by now.
Oh, well, so our recent album is Prophecy. So we're releasing a music video for another song, The Other Side of Fear, which is very fitting to this conversation. But we're probably going to be on tour around this time. So if you guys want to come out to our shows, it's edgeofparadiseband.com. And, that's my favorite thing is performing live and having that experience.
That's so exciting. I want to come see you. When you tour, are you going to be all over the country, the world, California, or do you know where you're going to be?
This year, probably US and Canada.
Okay.
And next year is going to be Europe. But we always have a show in LA. It's always part of the tour because it's such a big market.
Yeah. Do you know what venue yet for LA?
It's probably going to be either Wiltern, Whiskey, or Velasco. It's usually one of those.
All right. Well, I'll definitely come check you out if you guys want to see Edge of Paradise. And now that you know Margarita so much better than maybe you did before, and you want to come support and check them out, please do that. And I will also list all of their social media in my YouTube and Spotify show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being open. I know some of the stuff we talk about isn't always the easiest conversations or subjects to talk about out loud to the public.
It's important to talk about.
It is. And, there's people out there who maybe also feel the same types of ways, and they need a friend. So we're your friend here with you, and we'll be back next time with more Dare to Overshare. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Bye.